Call Dr. David Clark.
Mr. Chair, following that speech, that typically generous speech from the Minister, I would like to suggest that perhaps we could send him out as a welcoming committee, a one-person welcoming committee, if any of these boats turn up. I can assure the House that the boat will likely turn around and head for the hills. Look, Mr. Chair, this is a scurrilous bill. It is an outrage. It is unnecessary. And it introduces, in New Zealand law, provisions that are designed to distract from the current state, the current parlous state of this government, and designed to provide the kind of setup that exists in Guantanamo Bay. This is an outrage. We don't need this in New Zealand. It is absolutely clear that we don't need this. The people on these boats that Michael Woodhouse refers to, on the tattered boat, presents no threat to New Zealand. I want to firstly commend the excellent SOP in the name of my colleague Darian Fenton that seeks to provide a solution to appease the fears of the Minister by encouraging a massive rival group set up to be in the facilities that are already existing at the Mangere Refugee Resettlement Centre. Problem solved. Problem solved. If this problem, which is so big in the Minister's mind that he spends so many hours every night worrying about such that he cannot get to sleep, really exists, this excellent SOP would surely be a sensible solution to this perceived problem. But we all know in this House that this problem does not really exist. This problem is intended, the representation of this problem is intended to distract from the scandals in the current government. We have a government that is propped up by one man who's appearing in court, another who has resort to resign from his ministerial post, and a government that has had to release one of its own recently because it just couldn't cope. So, Mr. Chair, what we have here is a distraction. It is not a bill that is intended to address a real issue. It is a waste, in my view, of parliamentary time. It is a serious waste of very expensive parliamentary time. And that needs to be said, that needs to be put on record. There are millions of dollars, over $1 million in time if you add up all of the contributors to the debate, you add up the time and salaries of the staff here to run this parliament, you realise that there's a huge cost to passing legislation like this, which does nothing for our country. I hope, nevertheless, that the Minister will give serious consideration to the SOPs in my colleague Darian Fenton's name, because they do provide a humane way of dealing with such a problem if it ever were in the future to exist. If we're going to pass this jolly bill and use the time of this parliament, at least we could set up a humane solution that would stand the test of time. So if this issue became an issue in 150 years' time, we would have a law in our books that dealt with it in a humane way. Mr. Chair, it is important also to note that this particular distraction in the space of immigration is but one problem in that field. We know that the Immigration Department is proposing, for example, to shut down the very, very proficient office in Dunedin North, in the electorate that I represent, in the electorate that minister seeks to represent each time there's an election. And that high-performing office is proposed to be shut down. And I think this is an outrage. We know that the staff in Dunedin Public Service offices are very efficient on all measures. The staff in Dunedin tend to be cheaper, more loyal, hard-working and productive. And that is something that this government seems to have no concern for. It seems to have no concern whatsoever for the people in the regions who are losing their jobs for no gain for this government. In fact, if we examine the statistics, we see that the performance of the Immigration Department is in decline. Now that's an outrage, and I think it's an outrage that this government and that this minister in particular is trying to gut Dunedin of the jobs that are there in a time when there is so much unemployment. But back to this bill, because this is an important issue. This is indeed an important issue, that we talk about the distractions. Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to call Jan Logie.
Chair.